The film opens with the lead, Abigail, performing her ballet in an empty auditorium. Meanwhile, a girl gets picked up by two men in a black car. At the same time, a trio heads toward a giant mansion in their van. Abigail ends her performance and gets picked up by her driver, unaware that her car has a tracker under it. The guys in the car get notified about Abigail's movement, so they head toward the same mansion. The sniper guy from the trio infiltrates the house, leaving the driver and the hacker girl behind to hack the house's security system. The hacker girl successfully unlocks the mansion's door, allowing the others to get inside and hide. When Abigail shows up, she goes straight to her room. One of the hiding men comes out to grab Abigail, but she jabs her pencil in his hand, causing him to back off in pain. But the girl on their team immediately gives Abigail a sedative injection and knocks her out. The hacker girl alerts everyone of a new arrival at the main gate, so they put Abigail in a bag and run to the backside. The driver pulls his van at the back, in which everyone jumps and flees. On their way, they blindfold the girl. At last, they end up in a rusty old mansion, where an old man, Lambert, is waiting for them outside. Through their conversation, it is revealed that he's the man who hired these 6 people to kidnap Abigail. Inside, he instructs them to look after the girl for 24 hours and wait until he can squeeze $50 million out of her father. This raises the question of who Abigail's father is, but Lambert dodges it every time. Before leaving, he gives everyone a random name, since they aren't allowed to use real information. As he leaves, the team thinks of babysitting Abigail for 24 hours as an easy task and decides to drink at the mansion's very own bar. Joey doesn't join them, proves she's better than them by judging them for money, and goes to check up on Abigail. Since the beginning, Joey has had a soft spot for Abigail, so she slides up her mask and helps remove the blindfolds from Abigail's eyes. She then repositions her cuffed hands from the back to the front to ease her sore arms. She talks to Abigail, who is a soft-spoken girl, and promises that she won't let anything happen to her. Before leaving, Abigail softly warns Joey of what her father is going to do to them. Joey takes the threat seriously and goes downstairs to ask Frank about who Abigail's father is. Frank swears that he's just as unaware as anyone else is. This prompts Frank to visit Abigail's room alone, despite it being against Lambert's orders. When he goes inside the room and finds out Abigail isn't blindfolded, he immediately covers his face with his coat and threatens the little girl with his gun. She cries and swears she hasn't seen his face. When he asks Abigail her father's name, she whispers, Christophe Lazare. Frank immediately runs downstairs and decides to quit the mission. When the team holds him back, he reveals that Abigail is Christophe Lazare's daughter, who is a very influential criminal. Sammy doesn't know who he is, so she asks about the guy. Dean jumps in and claims Lazare is only an urban legend and is not real. While everyone is arguing, Frank realizes that Abigail has seen his face, so he can't leave. Frank ends up ordering everyone around on their next task. Joey is sent to check all kinds of entrances and passageways in the mansion, and Rickles is sent to guard the place with his rifle. Joey, on the mission, finds a 2-story library, where she comes across Rickles. Rickles shares his concerns about not trusting anyone and asks Joey to look for each other's backs. Meanwhile, Sammy goes to her room and watches cartoons. Dean scares her by wearing a spooky mask, so she gets pissed off and kicks him out of his room. Dean, alone and bored, checks up on the sleeping Peter and ends up doodling a penis on his face. When he goes to the kitchen downstairs, he hears some crumbling sounds from the pantry. When he goes there, he finds nothing, so he returns. Unfortunately, he is grabbed by the ankle and snatched away by some unknown entity. Sammy hears his screams and goes to the kitchen. When she comes out of the pantry after checking everywhere, she finds Dean and his ripped-off head in the kitchen. She screams loud enough for everyone to gather around. While on their way to check up on Abigail, they conspire that Lazare's man, Valdez, has ambushed them, which births fear in everyone after hearing from Rickles what Valdez can do. Rickles immediately runs downstairs and decides to leave, but finds a metal cage right outside the main door. Simultaneously, the entire mansion gets locked down, and heavy shutters block all kinds of entrances. When they are unable to open the shutters, Rickles runs to check up on his rifle, and Joey runs to talk to Abigail. When she asks Abigail to reveal what Frank has said to scare her this much, she reveals that Frank is Valdez, and he is going to hurt her if she tells that to anyone else. Rickles shows up at the door and asks Joey to come out. Joey tells him about the imposter Frank, and he tells her about the missing rifle. The two plan to take down everyone else and save themselves, but unfortunately when they part ways, someone ambushes Rickles. When Joey approaches him, she finds his throat and half of his face ripped off. She walks downstairs and points a gun at Sammy. When Frank shows up, she points a gun at him and accuses him of being the imposter, but Frank figures out that Abigail is cunning enough to turn them against each other. He sends Peter to rough up the little Abigail for this, but Joey isn't in favor. She goes after Peter and pushes him away from Abigail. The others show up, and everyone starts fighting in front of Abigail. Sammy witnesses Abigail breaking out of her handcuffs, so she screams out loud to alert everyone. Abigail jumps on Peter all of a sudden. Scared to death, Frank shoots Abigail in the head and tries to figure out who she really is. Abigail gets back on her feet, heals the wound, and comes after them. They run out and lock Abigail from outside. Together, they figure out she's a vampire and find out all the ways to put her to death. They sharpen the pool table cues and turn them into stakes, and they also take garlic cloves up in the room to attack Abigail with. To their surprise, she is missing from the room. Suddenly, they hear music from upstairs, so they run there and find her dancing with Dean's corpse. They try to fight, but she beats everyone without harming them seriously. They come down to Joey, who had not joined them, and tell her how Abigail is toying around with them. Joey tends to Frank's injury and breaks down that her sedatives actually work on Abigail. She tells everyone to split up and look for Abigail, so she can run to them and inject Abigail. Sammy discovers a pool full of decaying corpses. Meanwhile, Abigail starts messing around with Peter. She breaks open the locked door and comes after Peter, but Frank unintentionally opens another, pushing Peter off the staircase. Abigail comes at him instead. Joey shows up from behind and tries to inject the sedative, but she pushes Joey away, causing the injection to fall to the other side of the locked door. Sammy also tries to deal with Abigail, but she bites her arm instead. While she struggles to get the injection, Peter jumps on Abigail and pins her down. Joey finally gets her hands on the injection and immediately puts Abigail to sleep. Abigail awakens locked up in the mansion's lift. There, she reveals that Lambert works for her, and he brought all of them here because they have somehow cheated on or messed with his father's business. Abigail plays another mind game and promises to spare the life of the one who will set her free. Peter takes the bait and tries to free her, but Joey shoots him and takes him back to treat him. Left alone, Abigail tells Frank a secret way out in return for letting her go. When Frank doesn't free her, she breaks open the door herself and attacks him. Joey shows up and breaks one of the shutters to let the light in. The light exposure causes one of Abigail's hands to explode, allowing everyone to run to the library. There, Frank checks the secret door Abigail promised and realizes she was lying. Joey also tries to break a wall but fails miserably. In the end, they decide to split up and find a circuit breaker from where Sammy can reset the settings and unlock the main door. Outside, Peter goes with Sammy, but unfortunately, Sammy gets controlled by Abigail since she's bitten her earlier. Sammy bites Peter's neck off and tells the others to come to her place. When Frank and Joey show up, Joey realizes Sammy has been turned, so she runs away. Sammy tries to hurt them, but they stand in the light in the library and use a metal tray to reflect the light onto her, causing her to explode. Simultaneously, the secret door behind the bookshelf opens on its own. Despite knowing it's a trap, the two walk to the other end of the door and find Lambert in the security room, who is also a vampire. Lambert chokes Joey until she faints and offers Frank to be turned into a vampire, in order to put Abigail and her father to death and take over their empire. Frank takes the offer and gets turned into a vampire. He ends up putting Lambert to death for what he's done to him, and he decides to turn Joey into his minion. Abigail shows up for the final event, but Frank bites her and weakens her. Joey opens the doors by pushing some buttons and runs outside, but the library door is locked. She takes out her phone and sends her son a voice message. Frank shows up and attacks her. He takes her to the library and throws her around for fun. In the end, he throws her off the second story, but Abigail saves Joey and promises her to spare her life if she helps defeat Frank. The two go through great trouble to defeat Frank. In the end, they put a sharp stake through Frank's heart, causing him to explode. Abigail lets Joey leave, but Lazar shows up. He scares Joey with his growls and grunts, causing her to fall to the floor. Abigail intervenes and tells her father how Joey saved her. Hence, the father kisses Joey's hand and lets her go. With Joey fleeing in Dean's van, the film ends. Thank you for being a part of Instant Movie Recaps. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Instant Movie Recap for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned, and until next time, stay captivated.